This is a poem. It's anonymous. It's very early. It's a very early Irish poem. And it was translated into English by William Butler Yeats's friend, Lady Gregory. And it's, I think it's an extraordinary poem. It is late last night, the dog was speaking of you. The snipe was speaking of you in her deep marsh. It is you are the lonely bird through the woods, and that you may be without a mate until you find me. You promised me, and you said a lie to me, that you would be before me where the sheep are flocked. I gave a whistle and 300 cries to you, and I found nothing there but a bleating lamb. You promised me a thing that was hard for you, a ship of gold under a silver mast, 12 towns with a market in all of them, and a fine white court by the side of the sea. You promised me a thing that is not possible, that you would give me gloves of the skin of a fish, that you would give me shoes of the skin of a bird, and a suit of the dearest silk in Ireland. When I go by myself to the well of loneliness, I sit down and I go through my trouble. When I see the world and do not see my boy, he that has an amber shade in his hair. It was on that Sunday I gave my love to you, the Sunday that is last before Easter Sunday, and myself on my knees reading the Passion, and my 2 eyes giving love to you forever. My mother said to me not to be talking with you today or tomorrow or on the Sunday. It was a bad time she took for telling me that. It was shutting the door after the house was robbed. My heart is as black as the blackness of the sloe, or as the black coal that is on the smith's forge, or as the sole of a shoe left in white halls. It was you put that darkness over my life. You have taken the east from me. You have taken the west from me. You have taken what is before me and what is behind me. You have taken the moon. You have taken the sun from me. And my fear is great that you have taken God from me.
How beautiful.
The next poem is called Dover Beach, and it's written by Matthew Arnold, who was a school inspector by day and a poet by night. And this is written really at the height of the Victorian era. And it's a poem really about what he sees as the loss of faith, the loss of religious faith. The sea is calm tonight. The tide is full. The moon lies fair upon the straits. On the French coast, the light gleams and is gone. The cliffs of England stand, glimmering and vast, out in the tranquil bay. Come to the window. Sweet is the night air. Only from the long line of spray where the sea meets the moon-blanched land, listen. You hear the grating roar of pebbles which the waves draw back and fling at their return up on the high strand, begin and cease, and then begin again, with tremulous cadence slow, and bring the eternal note of sadness in. Sophocles, long ago, heard it on the Aegean, and it brought into his mind the turbid ebb and flow of human misery. We find also in the sound a thought, hearing it by this distant northern sea. The sea of faith was once too at the full, and round earth's shore lay like the folds of a bright girdle furled. But now I only hear its melancholy, long, withdrawing roar, retreating to the breath of the night wind down the vast edges drear and naked shingles of the world. Our love, let us be true to one another, for the world which seems to lie before us like a land of dreams, so various, so beautiful, so new, hath really neither joy, nor love, nor light, nor certitude, nor peace, nor help for pain. And we are here, as on a darkling plain, swept with confused alarms of struggle and flight, where ignorant armies clash by night.
Mhm.
Now then, I have to find my way. This is an Elizabethan poem by Thomas Campion. It's very simple, very lyrical, really, really beautiful, and it's called Cherry Ripe. There is a garden in her face where roses and white lilies grow. A heavenly paradise is that place wherein all pleasant fruits do flow. There cherries grow which none may buy, till cherry ripe themselves do cry. Those cherries fairly do enclose of orient pearl a double row, which when her lovely laughter shows, they look like rosebuds filled with snow. Yet them nor peer nor prince can buy, till cherry ripe themselves do cry. Her eyes like angels watch them still, her brows like bended bows do stand, threatening with piercing frowns to kill all that attempt with eye or hand those sacred cherries to come nigh, till cherry ripe themselves do cry.
This is a song, is it?
Yeah, it is. It would have been sung. And the thing is, cherry ripe was in the summer, like now, you would hear the call on the streets of London until really quite recently. I mean, when I say recently, I mean like it's like pre-war. You would hear people going, cherry ripe, cherry ripe.
Oh.
And yeah, so it's a very ancient call. And the other, well, there are a few Elizabethan poets here, but another Elizabethan poet was Robert Herrick, and he was a country parson who always wrote about his love of women. And his poems, really like Thomas Campion, are incredibly charming. They're not meant to be anything other than that, really, just delightful. And this one, the opening line of this one is still on the fruit and flower theme. It's gather ye rosebuds while ye may. So, and the title is actually To the Virgins to Make Much of Time.
Mm-hmm.
Gather ye rosebuds while ye may, old time is still a-flying, and this same flower that smiles today, tomorrow will be dying. The glorious lamp of heaven, the sun, the higher he's a-getting, the sooner will his race be run, and nearer he's to setting. That age is best, which is the first, when youth and blood are warmer, but being spent, the worse and worst time still succeed the former. Then be not coy, but use your time, and while ye may, go marry, for having lost but once your prime, you may forever tarry.
Mm-hmm.
And that actually brings me to Andrew Marvell, who was a poet slightly later, during the time of Cromwell, and then subsequently he was actually Milton's secretary. Milton, who's regarded as amongst the greatest of the English poets, And he wrote this wonderful poem that's incredibly famous called To His Coy Mistress. And it's very much on the same theme as the Robert Herrick. In other words, don't wait. Don't wait to get too old, because otherwise, you know, you'll be in your grave before you get to enjoy love. So here we go. To his coy mistress. Had we but world enough and time, this coyness, lady, were no crime. We would sit down and think which way to walk and pass our long loved stay. Thou by the Indian Ganges side shouldst rubies find. I by the tide of Humber would complain. I would love you 10 years before the flood, and you should, if you please, refuse till the conversion of the Jews. My vegetable love should grow vaster than empires and more slow, and 100 years should go to praise thine eyes and on thy forehead gaze, 200 to adore each breast, but 30,000 to the rest. An age at least to every part, and the last age should show your heart. For lady, you deserve this state, nor would I love you at lesser, nor would I love at lower rate. But at my back I always hear time's winged chariot hurrying near, and yonder all before us lie deserts of vast eternity. Thy beauty shall no more be found, nor in thy marble vault shall sound my echoing song. Then worms shall try that long preserved virginity, and your quaint honour turn to dust, and into ashes all my lust. The grave's a fine and private place, but none, I think, do there embrace. Now, therefore, while the youthful hue sits on thy skin like morning dew, and while thy willing soul transpires at every pore with instant fires, now let us sport us while we may. And now, like amorous birds of prey, rather at once our time devour than languish in his slow chapped power. Let us roll all our strength and all our sweetness up into one ball, and tear our pleasures with rough strife, thorough the iron gates of life. Thus, though we cannot make our sun stand still, yet we will make him run. I'm searching now for this is 3 poems that go together, although they're from different times. The first one is Christopher Marlowe, and he was Shakespeare's contemporary, and he was killed in a duel in Deptford. I actually, no, he wasn't. He was killed. He was knifed to death. It wasn't a duel at all. He was murdered. He was thought to be a spy on behalf of the British government in France. It was at the time of the wars between Catherine de' Medici and the Protestants. Incredibly bloody. And anyway, that's his. He died in 1618. And then there's an answer. Now, oh gosh, let me find it. Hang on. I think I may have lost it, actually. I'm here we are. The passionate shepherd to his love. Come live with me and be my love, and we will all the pleasures prove that hills and valleys, dales and fields, and all the craggy mountain yields. There we will sit upon the rocks and see the shepherds feed their flocks by shallow rivers to whose falls melodious birds sing madrigals. And I will make thee beds of roses, with 1,000 fragrant posies, a cap of flowers, and a kirtle embroidered all with leaves of myrtle, a gown made of the finest wool, which from our pretty lambs we pull, fair lined slippers for the cold, with buckles of the purest gold, a belt of straw and ivy buds, with coral clasps and amber studs. And if these pleasures may thee move, come live with me and be my love. The shepherd's swains shall dance and sing for thy delight each May morning. If these delights thy mind may move, then live with me and be my love.
Mhm.
And then you have Sir Walter Raleigh, who died actually, I think, actually just would have been a little bit, yeah, it would have been 20 years. He lived another 20 years after Marlowe. And this is the nymph's reply to the shepherd. And he says, if all the world and love were young, and truth in every shepherd's tongue, these pretty pleasures might me move to live with thee and be thy love. Time drives the flock from field to fold, when rivers rage and rocks grow cold, and Philomel becometh dumb. The rest complains of cares to come. The flowers do fade, and wanton fields to wayward winter reckoning yields. A honey tongue, a heart of gall, is fancy's spring, but sorrow's fall. Thy gowns, thy shoes, thy beds of roses, thy cap, thy kirtle, and thy posies, soon break, soon wither, soon forgotten, in folly ripe, in reason rotten. Thy belt of straw and ivy buds, thy coral clasps and amber studs, all these in me no means can move to come to thee and be thy love. But could youth last and love still breed, had joys no date, nor age no need, then these delights my mind might move to live with thee and be thy love.
Very thoughtful.
It's fun. This is, while I look for the C.D. Lewis, which I'm going to just put in between that this wonderful poem by Walter Raleigh called Walsingham. And Walter Raleigh was a great Elizabethan hero. He was Renaissance man, a poet, an explorer, a seaman, a courtier. He lost his head at the time of James II, and spent a long time, I think, in the Tower of London awaiting his execution. And this is a duologue, so I hope it's clear that there are two voices. As you came from the holy land of Walsingham, met you not with my true love by the way as you came? How shall I know your true love, that have met many one, as I went to the holy land, that have come, that have gone? She is neither white nor brown, but as the heavens fair. There is none hath a form so divine in the earth or the air. Such an one did I meet, good sir, such an angelic face, who like a queen, like a nymph, did appear, by her gait, by her grace. She hath left me here all alone, as unknown, who sometimes did me lead with herself, and me loved as her own. What's the cause that she leaves you alone, and a new way doth take, who loved you once as her own, and her joy did you make? I have loved her all my youth, but now, old as you see, love likes not the falling fruit from the withered tree. Know that love is a careless child, and forgets promise past. He is blind, he is deaf when he lists, and in faith never fast. His desire is a dureless content and a trustless joy. He is one with a world of despair, and is lost with a toy. of womenkind, and indeed is the love of the word, or the word love abused, under which many childish desires and conceits are excused. But true love is a durable fire in the mind ever burning, never sick, never old, never dead, from itself never turning.
Mm.
Walsingham, by the way, is in Suffolk. It is a real place, and it was a place of pilgrimage, and it still is. It was a Catholic place of pilgrimage, and of course, during the Elizabethan period, you had these terrible, terrible wars between the Catholics and the Protestants. And Walsingham, I think, was destroyed. And in the 1950s, there was an English parson, a Church of England vicar, who wanted, above all, to restore Walsingham. And so he raised masses of money, and it is now a place to which many, many people go on pilgrimage.
And why was it holy? Is it
probably? Do you know? I'm not absolutely sure. I very often, of course, there would be a holy well there. Well, there is a holy well. There is a holy well, but it may be that that possibly someone saw the Virgin Mary there, something of that nature. It's most likely that, you know, there would be there would be some religious event associated with the place that gives it that endows it with a spiritual meaning. And of course, you know, there would be, over hundreds of years, pilgrims went to Walsingham. So of course, it would gain in its reputation from that. We're now, I'm going to rush, now I'm going to go now to a poem written by a man who, he didn't live very long. I think he was 27 when he died. And this poem, we're now leaping on to the late 1800s. And this poem is romantic and lush, and it's just a love poem. It's extraordinarily beautiful, I think. It has no meaning. We never really know who Sinara is. It's called Sinara. Last night, yesternight, betwixt her lips and mine, there fell thy shadow, Sinara. Thy breath was shed upon my soul between the kisses and the wine, and I was desolate and sick of an old passion. Yea, I was desolate and bowed my head. I have been faithful to thee, Sinara, in my fashion. All night upon mine heart I felt her warm heart beat. Night long within mine arms in love and sleep she lay. Surely the kisses of her bought red mouth were sweet, but I was desolate and sick of an old passion. When I awoke and found the dawn was grey, I have been faithful to thee, Sinara, in my fashion. I have forgot much, Sinara, gone with the wind, flung roses riotously with the throng, dancing to put thy pale, lost lilies out of mind. But I was desolate and sick of an old passion. Yea, all the time, because the dance was long, I have been faithful to thee, Sinara, in my fashion. I cried for madder music and for stronger wine, but when the feast is finished and the lamps expire, then falls thy shadow, Sinara. The night is thine, and I am desolate and sick of an old passion. Yea, hungry for the lips of my desire. I have been faithful to thee, Sinara, in my fashion.
Mm. It's the beginning of 20th century, is it?
It is.
Despite thee and thy.
That's right. Absolutely, it is. I
And
think
why did he die so young?
he could have been consumption. You know, that was so common
Mm.
for those people. I would have thought something like that. You know.
So Bohemian of the beginning of 20th century.
Yeah, yeah. And now, I'm gonna let me just find it. This is W.H. Auden. I've only there there are so many great poems of his that you could choose lots, and I'm just gonna find it. It's called Lullaby, and of course, he was homosexual, and that's why there's reference, to it just under the surface. Lay your sleeping head, my love, human, on my faithless arm. Time and fevers burn away individual beauty from thoughtful children, and the grave proves the child ephemeral. But in my arms till break of day, let the living creature lie, mortal, guilty, but to me, the entirely beautiful. Soul and body have no bounds to lovers as they lie upon her tolerant, enchanted slope in their ordinary swoon. Grave the vision Venus sends of supernatural sympathy, universal love and hope, while an abstract insight wakes among the glaciers and the rocks, the hermit's carnal ecstasy. Certainty, fidelity, on the stroke of midnight pass like vibrations of a bell, and fashionable madmen raise their pedantic, boring cry. Every farthing of the cost, all the dreaded cards foretell, shall be paid, but from this night, not a whisper, not a thought, not a kiss nor look be lost. Beauty, midnight, vision dies. Let the winds of dawn that blow softly round your dreaming head such a day of welcome show, eye and knocking heart may bless. Find our mortal world enough, noons of dryness, find you fed by the involuntary powers, nights of insult, let you pass, watched by every human love. I think that's incredible. I could read one more by Auden, Musée des Beaux-Arts. Do you want me to read that?
Yeah, sure.
About suffering, they were never wrong, the old masters. How well they understood its human position, how it takes place while someone else is eating or opening a window or just walking dully along. How, when the aged are reverently, passionately waiting for the miraculous birth, there always must be children who did not specially want it to happen, skating on a pond at the edge of the wood. They never forgot that even the dreadful martyrdom must run its course, anyhow, in a corner, some untidy spot where the dogs go on with their doggy life and the torturer's horse scratches its innocent behind on a tree. In Bruegel's Icarus, for instance, how everything turns away, quite leisurely, from the disaster. The ploughman may have heard the splash, the forsaken cry, but for him it was not an important failure. The sun shone, as it had to, on the white legs disappearing into the green water, and the expensive, delicate ship that must have seen something amazing. A boy falling out of the sky, had somewhere to get to, and sailed calmly on. And then this final one is by Edward Thomas, and Edward Thomas was as they called them then, a man of letters. He was a critic, he was a prose writer, and he only discovered that he was actually a poet in about 1913. He died in 1917. So that tells you that he was writing poetry for the shortest possible time. He suffered from terrible, terrible depression. He's what today would be called a manic depressive or bipolar. And in those days, there was really no cure, no help, no knowledge. And he would disappear for weeks on end. He married very young. He married, had 3 children. And he had to keep escaping from his family. And I think he never lost his guilt, that he knew his wife loved him absolutely. And he loved her, but differently. And so
poetry, all right?
Yes, yes, exactly. But you see, he never actually wrote. He wrote some of the some poems that have now become classics. In one called Adlestrop, where he writes about he was on his way to Oxford, and he saw this little place. But this one he wrote to his wife, and I think he wrote it out of sorrow, really. So although he wrote poems during the war, you would be pushed to call him a war poet. On the other hand, I know that when he chose to fight, he didn't have to. He was 35. He absolutely didn't have to. But he earned so little, he worked so hard, earned so little from his writing, that actually joining the army provided him with a salary for the first time in his life, a salary that came in week after week. And also he found it very interesting, and he was sent to France. He wanted to go to France, and he was the most, I may have said this before, he was the most handsome man, beautiful man. And the extraordinary thing was he was killed, but he died from a bullet that passed right close to him. It didn't go through him. So his body was completely unmarked. So it was shock. It was shock that killed him. And this is called And You, Helen. And you, Helen, what should I give you? So many things I would give you, had I an infinite great store offered me, and I stood before to choose. I would give you youth, all kinds of loveliness and truth, a clear eye as good as mine, lands, waters, flowers, wine, as many children as your heart might wish for, a far better art than mine can be. All you have lost upon the travelling waters tossed, or given to me. If I could choose freely in that great treasure house anything from any shelf, I would give you back yourself and power to discriminate what you want and want it not too late. Many fair days free from care, and heart to enjoy both foul and fair, and myself too, if I could find where it lay hidden, and it proved kind. I think it's a wonderful poem. I'm just going to quickly search for the C. Day Lewis that I've lost, because that was in answer to the other two, the Rally and the... I'm just gonna, it's in one of these books, and I stupidly... Day Lewis. C. Day Lewis, of course, was the father of Daniel Day-Lewis.
Mm.
He was a poet laureate for a few years before he died. He didn't live. I think he died in his 60s. It wasn't, he didn't live to any great age. Come live with me and be my love, and we will all the pleasures prove of peace and plenty, bed and board, that chance employment may afford. I'll handle dainties on the docks, and thou shalt read of summer frocks. At evening by the Stour canals we'll hope to hear some madrigals. Care on thy maiden brow shall put a wreath of wrinkles, and thy foot be shod with pain, not silken dress, but toil shall tire thy loveliness. Hunger shall make thy modest zone, and cheat fond death of all but bone. If these delight thy mind may move, then live with me and be my love.
Mm. Fits very good to today's situation.
It is. I mean, that was, of course, the 1930s. I wonder if I can get back to you. I've lost you. I can't. Oh, can you hear me?
Yes.
Because I can't see you. I think oh, right. I can't see you. I don't know how to get back. Oh, I wonder if this, hang on. Yes.
Uh-huh.
Yes, now I can come back. There we are. Yeah. Yeah, that was pure 1930s, with the massive unemployment after the Great Depression. Because that was when he was a young man. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, great. Yeah. Yeah, as you say.
Yeah.
Never ceases to be applicable.
That's true. That's
yeah.
True. But let's hope that we'll have more of love.
Yeah.
Less of pity.
Yes. Yes.